Well, thank you for joining me. My name is Matt Fowler. I lead the systems engineering team for the MIST part of Juniper's business across the Asia Pacific region. In this short webinar, I'm going to take you through Juniper's solution to proximity tracing for the AI-driven enterprise. Over the next 20 minutes or so, I'm going to take you through how governments are handling proximity tracing with the COVID-19 pandemic, and what are the responsibilities of enterprises in dealing with the transition of employees from a work from home environment back into the office, and providing them that confidence around the rules that have been put in place by that enterprise for a safe return. So if we first of all start off looking at, what are the roles and responsibilities when it comes to proximity tracing? Because you've got a number of different entities that have different roles and responsibilities. First, let's start with, government, public health institutions. They're really responsible for looking at the tracking at a global level and reporting cases, tracing them, and ensuring that the broader public is, self-isolating to stop the spread of the pandemic. You then have technology that is there to assist those governments in tracing people that have become infected to stop the spread throughout the general public. Whether that's individual apps like the COVID Safe app in Australia, or whether it's built into technology platforms like the Apple Google contact tracing solution that was recently launched. When it comes to enterprises, it's more about ensuring business continuity, and that one, employees are safe and feel safe coming back into the enterprise. And if someone was to become infectious, that first of all, their identity is protected. But secondly, the enterprise can notify those that may need to self-isolate themselves. It's all about being able to resume normal operations effectively and efficiently while still being safe. Where MIST and Juniper comes in is that we provide market-leading Wi-Fi and Bluetooth solutions. And these technologies can be used to provide insights to enterprise on clustering, on occupancy, and even contact tracing while inside the enterprise. And that then helps enterprises make those business continuity decisions with all of the information at hand. So what solutions are there in the market at the moment? Well, first of all, let's look at government solutions. And I think it's important to highlight that each country or region is doing things a little bit differently, with some commonalities between them. So if you look at Australia, if you're Australian, you'll know that Australia released the COVID Safe app across both Android and iOS. And the government asked that you download that and have it on when you're outside your home premises. If you look at other countries, they've taken similar approaches with an app. Some are more strict than others. In the US, they're really relying on Google and Apple's solution, as there's no countrywide effort from an app perspective for contact tracing. What I think it's important to understand, though, is that the government solutions don't really solve enterprise use cases. So, if you look at the COVID Safe app, for example, that data is available to the healthcare system and the government, but that data isn't available for enterprises. And so there's no real way that an enterprise can understand if other employees have been in contact with an employee that has tested positive. It's something that only the government and that individual would know. And then you're relying on the government contact tracers to trace who they've been in contact with. Now, whether that works inside an enterprise building in terms of accuracy, just depends on the individual circumstances. If you look at the Google and Apple app or API, and recently the Australian government has commented on this as well. The healthcare and the government agencies aren't even involved in that, and so individuals get notified of their proximity to someone that has reported tested positive, and so even the government and the healthcare providers don't get that insight. So definitely the enterprise don't get insight into that as well. Now, why is it important, or why is it even necessary that the enterprise needs to know? Well, it's because quite often it's the enterprise's own employees that are asking for that, peace of mind. And there's questions around, proximity tracing. Can we retroactively identify if, I, as a returning employee, have come in contact with someone that is tested positive? It may be understanding if the enterprise has put in limits on zones. Only 5 people are allowed in this particular meeting room at any one time. Is that actually being adhered to? I might be asking that question of the enterprise. Am I able to see myself where the hot zones are in an environment, and therefore personally choose to avoid those hot areas in the enterprise? Are others adhering to social distancing? If I'm returning to the office, I want to make sure that not only am I practicing good social distancing behavior, but my colleagues are as well. It may even be things like entry testing as people walk in. And then the enterprises themselves are asking, if I need to answer these questions that my employees are asking, do we have the technology that's needed to address these types of questions? So we really see, 3 high-level use cases for enterprise as people start to return back to the office. The first might be, very detailed, and it could be, a user journey map. So let's say there's an employee that self-declares that they've tested positive. The enterprise could potentially then look at where has that particular individual been, what meeting rooms have they been to, and be able to go back over the last couple of days and understand what areas need to be, quarantined or cleaned. Are there any other people that have been in those same zones? And that's really this proximity tracing, the second one, where we can look at who has been in the vicinity of this particular self-declared COVID positive employee, and then proactively notify them that they should self-isolate as a precaution. Now, it may even just be simply congestion notification. So if you don't want to go, the full length into proximity tracing and user journey mapping, maybe you just want to understand how many people are in different areas of my building or buildings, and can I be alerted when there's a particular hot zone, so I can understand that behavior. Now, obviously, that has plenty of use cases outside of, the COVID-19 pandemic. It could be useful for facilities management to understand, desk and space utilization. But in the context of the current environment, there's definitely benefits for understanding clustering of people in the environment. So this is what the user journey mapping looks like out of the MIST platform, right? So we use, as I'll show you later, a combination of Wi-Fi and Bluetooth to understand where individuals have been throughout the environment. And so here it's tracking an individual device or badge as it's moved between different zones at different times. So you can get an understanding of exactly where that particular person has dwelled. Just to understand it a little bit better, you've got the circles that show where they've been, and the size of the circle really shows, how long they've been in that particular area. So the idea here is that if an individual self notifies, the enterprise that they have tested COVID-19 positive, that missed data with our premium analytics platform can deliver that visibility into where that particular user has been over the past, let's say 2 weeks or more period. I think what's important to note here is that we're not tracking, an individual. We don't know who this person is, right? The data in our platform is just tracking a device, and it's the enterprise, it's you, that does that mapping between who the person is and the device. And so that means from a data privacy perspective, Mist and Juniper has no idea who this individual is. We just know that it's a device. From a proximity tracing, what we can do is show for an individual by timestamp which zones they're in, but also show the number of devices that were nearby in that zone at the same time, and also show you what those devices are. Now, in this case, we're showing the device type here, or the host name of the device. But in your enterprise systems, that could easily be converted into an individual. I think that, like I said, the thing to keep in mind here is we're not tracking who that person is, we're tracking their device, and you can make that stitching between who they are and who that device is, which is good from a privacy perspective. Yeah, so in this case, it allows the enterprise to understand where's the person that's self-identified as being positive has been, and who else has been in that particular area. The third use case was around the congestion alerting. Like I said, there's definitely benefits to this outside of tracking or understanding in the current environment. This could be useful for facilities management in general. But this allows you to, on a zone-by-zone basis, as you can see on the left-hand side, it's any polygon shape that you define and then label. You can set an occupancy count for each one of those. So if there's a meeting room that has a maximum occupancy of 5 people, you set it to 5, and then we track the Wi-Fi and Bluetooth devices in that particular zone and show you the occupancy percentage in regards to that occupancy threshold that's been set. So in this example, the knock zone is showing that it's 50% full, and so we've had a yellow or amber alert against that particular zone. The others haven't met their threshold, and so they're showing as green. We can go a little bit deeper, which you can see in the background there, where we can actually show all of the zones and maybe rank them based on utilization across a particular time period, as well as looking at average dwell time or duration of people in that particular zone. And so this can be helpful in just providing visibility back into how the environment is being used. Are people obeying the rules that the enterprise has put in space for separation? So when it comes to how are we getting this information, there's really 5 sources of info that we have available. We do provide a Bluetooth mobile app-based location. So we provide a software development kit that enables very high accuracy Bluetooth tracking, just using the regular Wi-Fi access points that you deploy in the ceiling. And that allows 1 to 3 meter level of location accuracy. Most of the use cases for this app is for wayfinding, turn-by-turn navigation, but we can get data via that use case. Probably more applicable to proximity tracking are Bluetooth or Bluetooth low energy tag-based location. So I'll show you in a coming slide, but these are basically little badges that have a Bluetooth radio in them, and they chirp out, and that allows you to understand where a person is at any particular point in the day. We can also do passive BLE. So this is BLE from wristwatches that have Bluetooth built in or headphones, and so they can be located as well. And we can also track Wi-Fi, whether they're connected or whether they're not connected. So I guess the benefit of the MIST platform is that we can track all of these vectors. So you might not have everyone that's connected to Wi-Fi. Well, we can track them via passive BLE, or they might not have Wi-Fi, but they've got an employee badge that has Bluetooth in it, and they can be tracked by that method. In terms of what we recommend, it really comes down to some technical considerations. So I won't go into too much detail on this, but everyone will probably start with Wi-Fi, because in an enterprise, you're going to have Wi-Fi. You have a MIST access point in your ceiling, providing that coverage and connectivity. You may as well use that to get some insights with obviously no additional cost. And so particularly for the zone clustering or the occupancy analytics with Wi-Fi, that can be done. The caveat to be aware of is Wi-Fi is accurate to within 5 to 10 meters, so that needs to be taken into account. With the Bluetooth badge, so that's a little ID card. It looks like an employee badge, but it has a Bluetooth radio in it, available from providers like Contact.io and others. The good things about this is it's always on and it's more accurate than Wi-Fi, but obviously you need to deploy these badges to the employees, and there'd be a cost associated with that. From the mobile app perspective, that's where you get the highest level of accuracy, but you really need to have the app running, which is why I said it's mainly used for those turn-by-turn navigation use cases. But if someone's using it, it can be used for these contact tracing use cases as well. So if we look at the different sources, getting a real-time live view of where someone is, understanding that occupancy analytics by particular zone, understanding the hot zones, doing the proximity tracing, the user journey as mentioned, that can be done on Wi-Fi, can be done with a Bluetooth tag, and it can be done with that app SDK. So those use cases can be covered by those technologies. If all you're after is understanding hot zones and congestion areas, then even the passive Bluetooth on wearable devices as mentioned, or unconnected Wi-Fi, we can use that for those particular use cases as well. And so it's all about understanding what are your requirements. If all you require is understanding which zones are hot, am I over capacity in some areas, can I provide peace of mind to my employees that people are following those distancing rules that we have in place as people return to the office, then that can be covered with our standard offering. If you want to understand individual user journeys, individual proximity tracing, then we also have a premium analytics offering for that as well. I guess finally, just to reiterate, what are we really collecting here? From a MIST and Juniper perspective, we're collecting the location of devices. We see a MAC address of a phone or a laptop. We see a MAC address of a Bluetooth tag. We're not really tracking where a particular person is. So there's no personal data that we're storing. We provide the location of an individual device, and then you as the enterprise can tie that person to that particular device. And so this means that we're not storing any of that personal data. The identification of that user to that device is the responsibility of you as the customer or as the enterprise. And this provides a clear demarcation so that we're not storing that personal information. Hope that was clear, just to reiterate. So thank you for joining this webinar on MIST's contact tracing solution. Just to highlight, why would you look at MIST instead of some of the other offerings that you might see out there? Well, we're cloud-based, right? There's no on-prem appliances needed. You have our Wi-Fi access point with Bluetooth built in. you put it on the ceiling, that's all you need, connects back to our cloud. We can do this location-based services across both Bluetooth and Wi-Fi, and so that means you have a wide coverage and therefore can be accurate in understanding where people are, where are they gathering, and are they safe. Also, a little bit of a technical point here, but typically with these location-based services, you've got to calibrate. You have to go meter by meter and teach the system the location. You don't have to do that with MIST. We actually use machine learning, unsupervised machine learning, to do all of that calibration. And so you just deploy it and it's ready to go. We have those detailed use cases for individual user journey and individual proximity tracing with our premium analytics that you won't really find out there on the market. So hopefully this has given you a good overview of what MIST and Juniper are doing to ensure that employees can feel safe as they're returning to the enterprise, that any rules that the enterprise has put into place are being followed, and it's really about providing that data and that peace of mind to the enterprise and to the employees. If you want more detail, reach out to your NEC contact or go to mist.com/proximity tracing, and we'll be more than happy to help. But thank you for joining me, and I hope to talk to you soon.